Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Phoenix King 1, also known as Jared Jackson. With me, as always, the other half of the sexy dynamic duo, Mr. Jesse Daniel
Also known as Satan Fish.
and Satanfish. I always forget to do that. And we have the Dark Lord of Abyss and Suffering, Mr. Logan Phillips. And what are you thinking about today, bud?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
I'm thinking about how scripted that intro was.
Yeah, man. Totes my goats.
Totes.
Totally
my
McGoaty.
goats.
I love that. And of course, we have the man. Put on your headset. We're doing this for real now.
Mike's right here.
Well, put it on. I gotta look at you. The guy you hear is the man outside of time, the myth, the legend, the man who was perpetually stuck in the 1900s. Not the good one. Towards the end, the beginning, where we were still trying to figure stuff out. Mr. Timothy Kelly.
Hello.
Wow, Tim. Just wow. This is gonna be a fun day.
Yeah.
We should know that Tim is probably one of my best friends, so I like to make fun of him a lot. And if I do so, I do it all with love, because I do care deeply about Tim. But man, I'm gonna have a whole lot of fun today. I haven't seen you in person in a while. We talk a lot, but
It's been a long.
it has been a long
What's
time.
actually interesting is that Tim's not actually here. We just have a radio set up.
Yeah,
Because that's all they had back then.
yeah. His mammograms are not working.
That's not what that is.
Yeah.
You're using that one incorrectly.
Maybe so. Who cares? His what is it called?
Gramophone.
Gramophone. Oh, I could. We just said that a minute ago too. I can't. I had a memory blank. Yeah, his
That's what
gramophone
happens when
is
you
kind
try
of
to
messed
steal
up.
that joke.
That's right. Leave the joking to the obvious jokester.
Yeah, man.
Leave it to the people who know how to have fun.
Hey,
Doesn't he just sound like it? Doesn't he just sound like he's having a great time?
yeah, he's always happy. All 3 episodes beforehand, sitting right next to me, just gaggling it up with us.
Yeah, I finally had enough of listening to the podcast. I thought I'd come on and actually make it worthwhile.
Oh no, you've been on the whole time.
I
You've just
actually
been
speak
sitting
up.
there quietly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mic was muted the entire time, so I couldn't,
Yeah.
nobody could hear all the mean things I was saying about you.
Yeah. Fun fact: he's been there the whole time. We turned off his mic because it was really graphic.
Yeah, just nonstop swearing.
One day we'll give you your own episode.
Yeah.
It'll be about unicorns,
Yeah.
kitty cats.
And rainbows. And alleys.
We'll talk about boys, and I'll have a guest on, and we can do each other's hair.
Wow, this is taking a turn. I like the turn. It's taking a turn.
Oh
As you
man.
know, we have this thing called Ethical Corner where we like to talk about fun stuff that's ethical wise. And
Yeah, way to go, dipshit. It's gonna come over well in the audio.
I don't care. I don't have to edit this. That's all.
Oh god, we're giving this to Juan.
Do you want to edit this? Seriously, do you?
Not after that.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. I'm sorry. Let me fix your hair a little bit.
Get your hands off of me.
I'm trying to make you look pretty. All right. So
I'll treat you like I treat Schmitty.
people outside of here aren't gonna get that.
I'll make him my bitch.
That's okay. Some of this will be removed for
Yeah. we're gonna
time
have to
constraints.
want to cut off part of this. But like I said, we like to do something called Ethical Corner where we talk about an ethical question. And today's ethical question is it ethically right for machines to take over human jobs? And we all have various opinions. We've talked about this before. I personally say to a certain extent, yes. Logan says definitely yes. Because he's a maniacal, evil person.
Yep.
And so he just automatically agrees.
Look, the thing is that automation is going to happen no matter what. And the question really shouldn't be, what are we going to do about automation taking over jobs? It should be, where are we going to take education in order to maintain jobs for people? A lot of these places, they're going to automate, and then they're only going to need 6 or 7 technicians on the floor at any given time, to keep up with the machines. So you got to ask yourself, especially, we're seeing a lot of automation in, say, like coal or oil. There's a lot of automation going into those industries, and people are worried because you're losing jobs there. Well, what you do is you replace those jobs with new jobs, and you do this through improved training programs or improved education initiatives, where you train people to either work on the machinery that's replacing jobs, or you teach them a whole new trade craft that's similar enough to what they're already doing, but different enough to where automation won't have already taken over. And I see that that flickering of the lights. So luckily, the laptops have internal battery power, so we don't have to worry about losing audio.
We're becoming self-aware.
Yeah, that kind of just that got me.
It's meta. It's very meta.
You know what? And the good thing about the fact that automation is going to happen regardless, that's been a basically a staple since the Renaissance. Since then, I believe we've always gone up.
Oh yeah, and
I don't think we're going to hit a peak anytime soon, personally. So what's really going to happen is this is going to have to make education, like the educational system itself, completely do a 180 and get away from this corporate structure where they were just conditioning you to be in this like specific like set of like, jobs because like getting your factory ready to completely making you.
Well, and when you think about it, our education system has been geared towards that. You got three industries that you're getting ready for. The structure of education system, the structure of public schools is set to get you ready to work in a corporate environment. It's all about making you a good worker. You get out of a public school and you're already pre-programmed for corporate life as a factory worker, as a drone, but it's also set up to make it easier for farming. The way the school year is set up is so that we have people available to work on family farms, which we actually don't see a lot of that happening anymore, as farming has really become its own industry, and the family farm is kind of dying off, and we see more of a industrialized farming system.
Yeah, and I mean, progress is going to happen. There's no stopping it. It will happen whether we want it to or not. And I think that is a very, very good point. And I think we've hit this ethical thing. The ethical question, I should say, really well. I apologize for the misspoken words. I'm tired. I've had to move we moved locations at work, so I had to move all weekend. I went on vacation last week, and I've learned that with vacation, you need a vacation for vacation, because with my parents, they always want to do stuff, and we walked a lot, and fat boy can't do that too much. Also, it was overly humid up in Myrtle Beach last week.
Oh God, it must be so hard for you.
Oh, shut up, Logan.
What did you do over this 4th of July week where we had a break?
He was learning MSQL coding.
Sure.
MySQL?
Yeah.
I was learning MySQL. I looked at a lot of memes.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Tim Kelly? What have you been up to?
Mostly work.
You are a student at Athens Technical College. That's where we attend.
Yeah.
But you've taken this semester off. Where does that leave you as far as your credit hours?
I think like Dr. Evans said, I have 30-something hours. So I'm close to graduating. But because I've taken the semester off, bumped me down.
Yeah, like Logan and Jared and myself will get to walk in May. When do you graduate?
No clue.
So probably the May after. Okay, so you're looking at 2019.
What's probably going to happen is he'll get done that summer, more than likely, and he'll just have to wait. What I'm doing is I should be completely up to graduate by the end of December if everything goes as planned.
What about you, Logan? When are you set to graduate? May. Yeah. I've got 6 classes left. I have the internship next semester / capstone project, which I think most of us have decided that we're going to go capstone project and work on our own thing. Which honestly, I think this is a good thing to work on as far as capstone projects go. This could be monetized, and it could provide a place for other people to do their internships, as we discussed with Mark prior to that.
Yeah, I said we just do this. I like the fact that I get to sit around and just BS with my friends for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and we can do this 19 hours a week. This is easy. That's basically just scripting, recording, editing.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably maybe not quite clocking in that much, but we're in like the 8 to 10 hour range.
Yeah, and that's with outsourcing our editing.
Yeah, we have a dude named Juan who was on a couple weeks ago. So, nice fellow, does good work. We like Juan around here.
What are you thinking for your if you don't work on the show, what are you thinking for your internship / capstone project?
I have a couple of projects in mind I can work on.
Yeah, with him, me and Tim are in the process of work. I should say that I'm a man of 2 things. I'm working with a another fat guy like myself who enjoys a lot of the same stuff, who's not quite as attractive as I am, close. Named Jesse, but me and Tim, we started working on like a robotics company that we're gonna go on. So I'll be doing this and also letting him do most of the running, but helping out heavily over there too.
What about you, Logan? If you weren't working on the show, what would you do as an internship or capstone project?
No idea.
No idea.
Probably be a mill stripper. We're gonna be completely honest with ourselves.
Well, and actually, there's a couple of ideas that I've run by with Logan, a few about video game design, some programming stuff, and Logan's actually really good at making apps. So, he's got a lot of options that he could do.
He's also really, really good at sucking out the mark. Like I don't mean that in a negative way.
What's really funny
this
about
man is a renaissance man of the suck up. Some of the stuff that I've seen him do is just. I'm gonna be honest with you, Logan. I bow down to you on that aspect.
Wait until you see my final.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
What's really funny about that, you bring up the sucking up, is that actually has shown a lot of his skill in app development and video editing and even in video creation.
He made an entire app for our program chair, Mark Evans, specifically made to cater towards Mark. And
Yeah.
Mark, I think his exact words, I may be butchering this, but it was like, I was both flattered and creeped out all in the same moment.
No, I think that what the turning point with Mark was when we had to make a video about our family. And I just filmed an empty house for like 40 seconds, and then it got to the end. And it was just, I slowly panned the camera over to my TV with a picture of Mark with his mouth open. And I pushed an orange slice into his mouth, made the video fade slowly to red.
Oh my God.
Oh no! But I've had the opportunity these last 3 semesters to work closely with Logan, and I've seen a lot of what he's capable of. It's amazing stuff. He's going to be huge.
Logan's a good guy, and that's why we like him around here.
That's one of the reasons why we're happy to have him on the show.
For some reason, the people that have like a lot of sarcasm in their humor, I love, and Logan's the king of sarcasm. So,
well, and the reason for that is that he's actually a 40-year-old man trapped in a young man's body.
40.
No. He's pushing like 60 or 70.
Well, he doesn't look a day over 40.
No. He kind of. I made the comment today. He kind of has like a Charles Manson-esque look going on.
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn, yeah.
I mean, the argument could be made that if Marilyn Manson grew facial hair,
He would kind of. But I was like, he's either a hippie Jesus or Charlie Manson.
why can't he be both?
Hey,
Don't
there we
Don't-
go.
don't
I'm not going to
limit-
discriminate against you, buddy.
Yeah, don't limit Logan's potential. But no, in all seriousness, that is what this kind of started out as is a project for school, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to grow it, and what really helps us grow is our viewers, our listeners, the people who are following us on Facebook at Project Overload. On Facebook, you can find us at Project Overload 123 on Facebook. Go ahead, give us a like, share, follow.
Password is Logan is the overlord.
And then here on YouTube, which is where we generally upload our audio for our viewers, our listeners, and what we need from you guys on there is just a subscribe and leave comments.
Yeah,
because
let us know.
we really want you guys to be part of the process here.
You guys are the check and balance of this show. We care about what you say. Just go with it. Okay, just go with it.
But that's enough fleeting for today. One of the things we wanted to talk about today is Tim Kelly. He is a designer. He's designed a few robotics items.
Man perpetually stuck in the year 1990 to 1959.
And so what we wanted to do was let Tim Kelly kind of have a platform to talk about some of his design. So tell us about your aesthetic, Tim.
Really?
Talk, Tim. This is your moment. Own it, dude. Own
it. What in particular would you like?
Wait, just talk about anything you got going on. You have a very unique aesthetic with the way you design things. You want advanced robotics, but and this is one of the reasons why we joke around that you're a man outside of time. You're perpetually using 1950s aesthetics to create your advanced technology. It's almost like
Actually, everything he makes is in black and white.
yeah. It's almost like Westworld.
He's like traditionally colorblind too. That's all he sees.
Yeah.
That's probably why you like it so much. Everything was black and white.
He also
back
has some
then.
sort of rare neurological disorder where everything has a film grain.
What's crazy is that his internal monologue is like the old news announcers from the 1930 reels.
Today, in today's world, Tim Kelly has designed a specialized Tesla car. Listen here, Elon Musk. This guy's the best comer. I am that internal voice. I sneak into Tim's house and whisper to it while he's asleep. So it's not as creepy as it sounds.
Well, I mean, science has confirmed that Jared will sneak into your house an average of 4 times a year and whisper into your ear. So.
It's always like, this was a long run up here. Really hungry.
But no, and I find that your designs are often pretty interesting. I like the idea of combining a futuristic idea, such as your idea for mechanical prosthesis, with a kind of old school visual appeal.
Fun fact about that: when me and Tim first started to talk about it, we realized we had the exact same idea for what we wanted to do within a 7-year span. I saw the movie iRobot, and I was like,
I love that movie.
And then Tim was playing COD.
The funny thing about iRobot is it's written by Isaac Asimov, and what it really is kind of it's kind of a piece to get a discussion started about where does intelligence begin? What makes us human and separates us from that which we create? And that is an amazing discussion to have when you're talking about robotics, especially when you're talking about artificial intelligence, which is something that we're seeing a lot more of with smartphones. You see smart cars, refrigerators that automatically adjust temperatures, or
Excuse me?
yeah, there are mechanical refrigerators that will adjust temperatures or send out to have their own repairs done without any input from you whatsoever.
Maytag, some of their stuff does that.
Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
if I remember right, when I was taking my drafting class, my professor there, her husband worked for some company with ovens, and he had went to Italy, I believe, during that semester to show off an oven that his company had made, and it would like put humidity in it. That way, the turkey in the first level wouldn't dry out, and then like the bottom level, it would change the temperature. That way, it doesn't burn the casserole or something like that. It was
yeah, and
really weird.
we're seeing a lot more intelligent technology. And the question really is, when technology becomes as smart as we are, what's the difference? Is it simply that we're biological and they're mechanical and that we created them?
Well, clearly that question's been answered in media, specifically movies, and it never works out. Case in point, Terminator.
So it's really interesting that this comes up because I've been doing nothing but reading into the lore of Overwatch of all things.
So
really-
have you seen the stuff for Doomfist?
I have.
I'm so excited.
I love it. I love it so much.
I have no clue what you're talking
Don't
It's
worry about it.
it's a game.
It's only from the 21st century.
It's a class-based shooter that has nothing to do with the lore of the game, but it's beautiful. And really, what's going to happen when our technology becomes as smart as us is they're going to be taken over by the God program and slaughter all the humans. And then the UN's going to have to step in and handpick soldiers from around the world to create an elite task force that somehow rids the world of robots.
So
Five
basically,
people.
I'm hearing we are literally going to have Overwatch.
There's actually a lot of book lore about this. There's a book series called the Rings. Oh Lord, I can't remember what it's called exactly. I believe it's called Rings to the Kingdom, but it's the first book is the Pirates of the Thunder, and what it is it's a 5-book series about Earth after a computer has been created to stop nuclear war from happening, basically to stop World War III. And this computer has a super intelligence, human level intelligence. And so, in order to stop World War III, what it did was it sent humans back to a pre-industrialized society, and it separated everyone onto different continents in their pre-industrial places prior to any kind of cross-cultural contacts. And then to stop overcrowding from happening on the planet, it basically built ships to transport billions of humans across the galaxy to planets that they could live on. And then it altered their genetics to make them better suited for each planet that they were sent to. And basically, so the idea was that once a computer becomes super intelligent, depending on how we've programmed it, say this computer was particularly programmed to protect human lives and to ensure the continued existence of the species. Will determine how it reacts. Personally, what I think is that once computers reach human level intellect, they're still going to be constrained by their programming, and all we really have to do is program in that basically they're locked into a certain set routine.
Yeah.
Of course, I could be very wrong about that. There's actually a test. It's called the Turing test to determine whether or not computers gain human level intellect. And the Turing test states that if a computer is smart enough to trick us into thinking that it is not human level intelligent, it is in fact human level intelligent.
It's
It's,
a little counterproductive, if you ask me.
indeed. So the question is, how do you know whether or not your computers have passed the Turing test or not?
If one does not equal to print, I am not a human.
Yeah.
I'm not, or as Kanye says, wait, never mind.
No, go on. You had it
No,
there for a second.
I can't
I
think of
believe
the
in you.
song.
You can do it.
There's some song that basically says, Kanye's like, I'm not a human, I'm not a drone. I can't think of the actual song. I don't feel like looking it up.
Good, because no one should listen.
I agree.
Hey, my Yeezys look good today, man.
Oh, is that how it
We're
works?
taking over your podcast now.
No, you're not. It's all quite too now.
So another question we have to ask ourselves is that where robotics, which has existed for
At least a year.
well, it's existed in one form or another for thousands of years.
Yeah.
We've had mechanical engineering and robotics in one form or another for nearly as long as there have been humans, at least as long as there have been cities.
I'm still holding out hope for the giant fighting robot of Pompeii to be found.
Indeed, indeed.
I want to see the exact recreation of Pacific Rim.
Where it meets computer programming, which has existed again for at least 100 years. Where robotics meet computer programming, basically where bodies meet minds. What is the limit that we put on ourselves? What should we not create?
Cal 2000. That's just a clear thing.
Yeah.
Anything that could potentially bring the downfall of society.
But where do you draw the line? Because how do you determine what has the potential to bring down society and what has the potential to build us up? Because truth be told, humans need artificial intelligences.
Oh God, yes, that's true. I mean, it's gotten to a point that, like, even in the medical industry, robots are performing surgery, and I'm all for that because if you think about it, there's not that whole chance of human mistake, so to say.
Well, there still is in the person that programmed it.
Yeah. So what we need to talk about really is, where do we draw the line? What is an acceptable AI and what is an unacceptable AI? Do we use AI solely for medical procedures and for comfort care in our homes, or do we also go for AI in military aspects or policing aspects? For example, they built a computer that, given the statistics and the data that it had available by its human creators, would give out sentencings on criminal cases. And because the data, much like its human creators, were skewed towards certain beliefs and certain facts that it had available, without taking into account the social construct that created those facts, it did pretty much the exact same thing a human would have done in its place. And it didn't take into account a person by person basis. It started giving out sentencing based on grouping. So you saw a much larger sentencing, a harsher sentencing for African Americans than for Caucasians, because that's basically where our judicial system is. And so when we look at creating artificial intelligence, we have to be very careful, because we have to remember that as human beings, we ourselves are flawed. So anything that we create, we have to be very careful not to put our own preconceived notions and our flaws into it. But then at that point, we also have to worry about how it's going to be controlled, how it's going to react. So we need to decide where we're going to be focusing our energy. Do we want to try to create machines that can do what law enforcement does? And if we do that, can we create machines that do not have our faults?
I would say we can.
Thanks,
with,
Tim.
with the right people.
And Tim, you're a robotics guy, but Logan, you look at it from the viewpoint of a programmer. So as a programmer, what do you think?
Just make everything. If it ends up killing us, so well, go for it.
I'm not really
Make the
on
Terminator.
that side. I don't agree with that per se.
I do.
Well, I think you're wrong, Tim.
Okay.
So basically, if we can make it, do make it.
There is no let's not because we shouldn't. That's not how technology works. That's not how it's ever worked.
So basically, the idea is that it's going to get made anyway.
It's going to get made anyway. Let's just go ahead.
Let's just get out in front of it.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a pretty good idea because if we get out in front of it, then we control how it is.
It doesn't matter, like, if we're making a little hand cart to go along a railway or a big-ass train, we need to stand in front of it because we made it.
Yeah. I like the metaphor
I
because that is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And
You're
then,
all laughing at me.
well, and what's crazy is that even though we're laughing,
It's
we're in agreement. There's really nothing else to say about that. That's exactly how it's going to turn out. When you talk about progress, you talk about anything. I mean, look at Alan Turing. He's the father of modern computers.
Yeah.
And I mean, he got out in front of it and he owned his creation, and in doing so, destroyed his own life. You know?
Well,
And of course, the British government didn't help in that regard either. But
he fancied a bit of boy on the side, and the government really did not like that.
yeah, Tim's time period is kind of harsh on the whole.
That's a bit later in Tim's
it's
time
really
period.
funny that
Well, it's between the 1920s and the 1950s. So.
he's
Barely.
all about like that time period. But like Tim, you realize there was a lot of bigotry and bad stuff.
So much badness.
Tim's white. He doesn't care.
That's true. That's true. Tim
Well, technically, at that time period, I would have been an Aryan if I was in Germany. So.
Tim is a short white guy, so the only thing they would have got him for was for his weird obsession with technology.
Yeah, he wouldn't
Yeah.
make it in like the Dark Ages.
I know you totally get burnt as
Yeah.
a witch at the stake.
Oh,
man.
see, I was thinking of something a little bit more creative, something like the pyramid.
What?
So there was this thing back in the old time called the pyramid.
Yeah.
Oh,
what it
the
was-
torture device.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would
Oh.
sit you on top of this pyramid and put weights on you, and you would slowly fall out. I'll let your mind think of like all of the imagery, but
Yeah, we're not going to describe that
Yeah,
on
no.
the show.
but
Are we gonna have?
yeah.
Are we gonna talk about torture devices? Because I can do this for hours.
Well, and what's crazy is that some of the most brilliant minds of the Middle Ages were put to work coming up with new and inventive ways to torture other human beings. And if you really think about it, that's kind of how humanity works. Some of our most brilliant minds go to work, get put to work coming up with the most powerful weapons.
Albert Einstein helped create
Oppenheimer.
the thing we use to cripple Japan.
Yeah, Oppenheimer. I mean, he was very instrumental in creating the nuclear weapon. Which, of course, you have to also look at that a lot of the time military technology turns into something beneficial for humanity. Take space-based military platforms. The satellites that have been launched into space since the 1950s. We used those to spy and to relay information for our military, but now our entire communications network, both commercial and military, rely solely upon those satellites.
True.
I mean, you look at military technologies, and eventually those military technologies turn out to be beneficial for humanity. I mean, you look at nuclear weapons led to nuclear power plants, and fission led to us coming up with new ways to harness energy.
To be fair, nobody trusts nuclear power.
That is true.
I trust you.
I trust nuclear power.
I do too,
But if you go
because
out on the street and said, "How would you feel about a nuclear power plant being set up?"
You know, it's
and
crazy.
they're going to
is
scream
that-
in terror. Just
Yeah.
pepper spray you.
A lot of people are uncomfortable with fusion reactors.
It's understandable
Fission
because
reactors, I'm sorry.
there is that like high chance. I don't maybe not a high chance, but there is that chance
It's-
of like
it's
what
like a
happened in
one-
Japan.
It's like a 1 in 1,000 chance that your reactor is going to overload like that.
Yeah, and for some people that
And-
one in 1,000 chance.
Well,
is
you
it.
get the same
I'm-
thing
I'm
you
on
have
board
with
with
any
you
other
guys.
power plant.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that a lot of the time, where the areas where those power plants have gone critical, you look at Chernobyl. That was during the Soviet reign, and they had very little oversight put on the safety regulations for those, and the environmental regulations. And that's not really something that you would see here in America too often. In fact, there's something like 40,000 nuclear power plants across the United States right now in operation, and most people don't even think about them day to day. You know, because our regulations are so strict, the idea of one of the American power plants going critical like that is just,
It just doesn't happen.
yeah, it's just such a low ball number.
And every time I've had this conversation, everyone like brings up Chernobyl, but that's not a good example
It's
because
not.
of exactly what you said. I'm on board.
For us, an example would be 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
We stopped it, we contained it, and we evacuated.
And there's very little fallout from that.
You want to know what really gets me about all this? Is when people campaign against nuclear power and they go, oh no, the waste is going to stay for thousands of years. Meanwhile, they're just sitting there in their car, pumping out all the gas,
That's what I
Yeah, the carbon emission.
You hear
heating their
like,
home
people,
with oil power.
hear people like Al Gore preach against like all like the carbon emissions and stuff, and he has like a $7 million mansion he lives in.
Right. And what's beautiful about nuclear power? There's two things that's beautiful about nuclear power. One, it's
There's a
good
lot
for,
of
one, it's good for the environment, and here's why. Coal and oil require mining. They require you to destroy large sections of land, blast into the side of mountains. Even in oil drilling, you use explosives to try to clear out areas so that you can pump more oil. The spillage is high. There's spills of oil
Look
all
at
the time.
BP situation that happened a few years ago.
And the Dakota pipeline. I mean,
Yeah.
that spilled recently. Coal pollutes rivers. It gets pumped into the air. The natural wildlife gets blasted away. With nuclear power, a lot of those radioactive isotopes can get created in labs. There's no need for mining. There's no need for blasting. There's no. You look at oil in North Dakota. There's a section in North Dakota where they're pumping out oil that one person dies every 6 weeks. That's their accident days.
To be fair, you're still going to need to mine to get the resources to make the isotopes. But
True.
you don't need to, it's not on as big of a scale.
No, and radioactive isotopes are easier to come by than coal or oil. Mostly because they haven't been drilled out for the last 200 years. And then a second thing, it's more efficient. You can get way more power from a nuclear reactor than you can burning oil or burning coal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a fact. It's cleaner. It's more efficient. You get more power. It's harder to set up.
The whole argument behind it is the same thing the argument that people have behind it is the same argument I have towards the Nikola Tesla way of thinking. Tesla is one of my favorite scientists of all time.
Oh yeah, he was a rock star.
Because he wanted to make energy free, wanted to make electricity for everyone. And Edison completely screwed him over.
Edison was a businessman.
Which is fine. But the whole idea of it's going to be taking away from jobs.
But the beautiful thing about that, it's like we were talking about earlier. It doesn't necessarily take away from jobs. Just talk about solar power. People are always, if you go to solar energy or wind energy or water energy, you're taking away jobs from coal miners and oil field workers.
Who the hell is arguing?
Oh, believe me, there are people out
It's
there.
it's being argued a lot actually.
Nobody has ever said that in front of me, and if they did, I would punch them in the teeth.
Well, here's the thing about that. Once you
You can just retrain the workers and have them go work on this particular thing.
yeah, once you have that, you just do a slight retraining. It's not even that much different, to be
No.
honest. It's maintaining machinery.
And honestly, it might be safer.
It definitely. I can't tell you how many times I've never heard of a worker accident resulting in a death at a solar power plant.
Yeah, 'cause there it is.
I can't think of anyone who's ever died of black lung working for wind power.
I'm getting too much oxygen.
He's got a case of the green lung.
Right?
Oh, geez.
Plants
And-
growing inside of him.
Now there are accidents that happen in hydro plants, and that has to do with the fact that machinery is much more advanced. It's much more prevalent. The opportunities to get injured are much higher, and yet I also want to point out that the rate of fatalities is much lower, so it's still safer.
You may get injured, but it's not going to be like a world-shattering thing.
Yeah, you're not going to lose an arm working at a hydro plant.
Well, don't underestimate me.
Logan's the man of challenge.
And what we're it's what we're seeing here is that, and another problem is that you're looking at places like West Virginia, North Carolina. These are places where these plants, coal mines are going down, and these new renewable energy plants are not coming in. So you really have to put an emphasis not only on renewable energy, but also on renewable energy creating jobs in your state. You talk about Georgia has several actually renewable energy areas where people are working. There's a few. I think there's even a nuclear power plant here in Georgia.
Yeah, I think there's a couple.
Yeah.
Field trip.
And so you look at Georgia, which is it's a state that's been predominantly red and conservative, and even they are putting an emphasis on getting renewable energy in. We have that here in this state. Something that's really funny to me that I saw on last week with John Oliver when he was discussing coal was that the History of Coal Mining Museum in Kentucky is now 100% solar powered.
Oh, that's
Wow.
beautiful.
Yeah.
But now there are bad sides to the solar and wind.
Oh, there's bad sides to everything. I mean, yes, it is creating joblessness in these other industries as the industries die. That's one thing. I mean, it's a low ball because there's a lot of options and opportunities for that, but it's also very true, and you can't talk about this without talking about that. It's more expensive to start off with,
No, but-
setting up the plants.
But Jesse, if we have too many solar power plants, we're going to use up all the sunlight.
I love the sign that says "Sun sets and wind dies," because use coal, trust coal, and it's evidence of just wow, just wow. Now, what's really funny about that is you look at solar power and people think, what am I going to do when the sun goes down? Well, they actually store solar energy.
We've
You-
invented these things, and bear with me, that they're able to hold an electric charge. This is groundbreaking technology. You can put them in stuff, and they'll power it, even when it's not receiving.
I think they're called
direct power.
the beta rays.
Beta rays. That's what it is.
Beta rays,
They're beta rays.
beta ray Bill.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they created that superhero in the first place, so that you would know
Yeah.
about the beta rays. No, but in all seriousness, you can store solar energy. It stores as electrical energy. Basically, they use the heat to push steam to create steam using basically a water generator, and the steam pushes a turbine and creates electrical current, which gets saved in batteries. So even at night, you're still being able to use solar energy. And using solar energy in conjunction with hydro energy and wind energy can actually provide almost as much energy as using nuclear power. And basically, one of the only problems you have with any of these is that it's very expensive for startup. That's why a lot of these other states don't actually have the power plants because it's so expensive at first. It pays for itself though, because once it's set up, it's actually cheaper to push out the energy. You spend a little bit to set it all up, and then afterwards it's a little cheaper, and it's cheaper on the public as well because the power bills don't cost as much because the products used to create the energy are not as expensive. In fact, I don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that wind, water, and sun are free. Am I correct on that? It's free. It's free to get those.
I think it costs a little bit, but not a lot.
Nothing is
and then
free.
you have companies like Tesla, or not Tesla, what is it, Solar City?
Yeah.
They're making the solar tiles for houses, and I watched
those are great. They look exactly like regular tile for your house. Your house doesn't look awful. They're cheap.
Yeah. I watched one video, and this guy actually did the estimates. It's cheaper to go ahead and install these tiles than actually replacing a roof.
Oh, yeah. And what's crazy is that you look at people who have it. For example, Bill Nye.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Nye has his show that's on Netflix, and he talks about renewable energy, and he talks about his personal cost per month for energy. Bill Nye lives in California. He has a fairly substantial house, and his power bill is $10 a month. Whereas you talk about my house here in Georgia, out in the boonies, and I'm paying like $100 a month for power.
You trying to bring up a conversation about the booties with me here?
Oh no, you would win. I've been to your house.
You have. You're one of the two people that have been to my house.
The other one's sitting right there.
She hasn't actually been there. She's been to the driveway.
That's true.
Moneymaker was there.
Oh, Moneymaker was there.
Moneymaker's been inside.
Oh wow.
Wait.
Moneymaker's house is also in the boonies.
Yeah. But I mean, the
I
whole
didn't even
idea
get
of
cell phone service.
I thought we were gonna die.
And so that's what we're looking at here, is in renewable energy.
Well, I mean, it's just smart.
And again, it comes down to education. Really, everything can be solved in this country through better education. I mean, you talk about an emphasis on solar energy. So what you need to do is put an emphasis on educating people about solar energy, about wind energy, educating them on the opportunities there are for becoming engineers or mechanics working on those particular machines. You talk about the service industry. There's a huge stigma on the service industry, and yet it's the biggest growing industry in the United States now.
Well, my only complaint about the service industry is the fact that, like, basically what I'm trying to get. Do you know how tipping started?
Tipping is something that should definitely be banned, and I'm sure that Tim Kelly knows all about it since he's from the 1930s.
Well,
Yeah.
here's what happened. For those of you that do not know how the whole concept of tipping your waiter started, and then before about 1929,
it was before the Great Depression.
it was right before the Great Depression. It was considered offensive to tip.
Yeah, it was un-American.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so what happened is during the fall of the economy during the Great Depression, you would have to tip because you're helping pay for them.
Yeah, they wouldn't. Restaurants
owners
wouldn't pay.
yeah,
They wouldn't pay their employees.
They
Because
basically go up to you and be like, "Hey."
a lot of them couldn't.
Yeah.
A lot of them couldn't pay
And then
and stay in business.
some of them were just.
And
skeevy
it
bastards.
wasn't just restaurant employees either. I mean, hotels with the bellhops, they couldn't pay them.
So they said, "Hey, you got to work really hard. You better please them because they're paying your salary."
And that's also where the rise of the customer is always right comes from.
Because they're right, because they're paying.
Yeah, because
In all
they
honesty,
basically pay you.
I hate to be the one to break this news to people. You're not always right.
No.
I've talked to a great many people in my life, and a lot of them are really strong-hearted about the fact I think that they're right.
No.
They're not.
I think that a better saying is sometimes the customer is an idiot.
As someone who works in a retail setting, yes.
Yeah. Also, I know this is controversial, but the signs are there for a reason. Read them.
Oh my
Nah.
God.
Read
So
the signs.
here's a little story about my job. I work in Covington, Georgia, on Industrial Boulevard.
I'm sorry.
Now, yeah. So there's this road called 278. It's where basically in Covington all of the shops and restaurants are around. And we were right across from like the hospital in Newton County. So it was an easy landmark. And then there's the Walmart. Most people, whether you go into one or not, know where a Walmart is.
Yeah.
They've pretty much become the juggernaut of every town in America. And like a lot of people are like, oh, this place is a Walmart? That's weird. Because they're everywhere. Heck, I live in the small town of Madison, Georgia. It's not boondocks, but at least we got a Walmart. I didn't mean that to be as pointed of a statement as it is, but it came off really good. Do you have a Walmart out where you live?
It's like 15 to 20 minutes away.
Same. There
That's
is
the
a
one.
Walmart 15 to 20 minutes away in either direction of my town.
That's the way my grandparents' house was. They lived in Jasper County. But and most people that live there have lived there for a long
Tim
time.
knows he lives out in the area that I live in.
Not anymore.
Oh, you don't anymore? No.
Not anymore.
Tim moved. He didn't even say anything.
But so we put up signs, hey, we're at our new store. And we get asked all the time, and I can understand like the street that we've moved on, we're the very end of it, and I can understand why people wouldn't know it exists. Because I lived there for 15 years, and I didn't know. What it is like there's a CVS close to where I work, and then basically it's a back street leading you back towards the Industrial Boulevard, which is where the Walmart, like there, all these nice places. There's a Tractor Supply, and with as many trucks that there are in Newton County, I'm so surprised at how many people don't know where a Tractor Supply is. Because good God, it is. Imagine the most suburban area in the world, full of a bunch of wannabe rednecks. That's where I grew up. That was a fun time to be a geek. I would get like made fun of for like getting super passionate about Batman and stuff. And I was like, oh, so you mean chewing some chow and taking the truck out to the mud hole? That's fun.
And to get back on topic a little bit, when we talk about the stigma that exists with the service industry, most people in the service industry are kind of looked down on. You know, they
It's
get
seen
pointed.
as like a bad thing. Like I have a very close, or she used to be a close friend. I haven't talked to her in a while, but a girl that I was in band with, I knew her from my freshman to senior year. She was always like people would make offhanded comments to. She worked at a Dairy Queen, I should say, to her face, and they would make assumptions when honestly all she was doing was getting a little extra money to help pay for school.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But they were like, oh, she's probably pregnant and having a fear family. Something like that.
Yeah, and you see the stigma, and it comes from a time when service industry jobs were handled by either low class or by African Americans or people of color, and it's expanded to such an extent that now it's $100 billion industry, and it's the fastest growing industry in the United States, thanks in large part to automation of other industries. And so we have this stigma that it's a failing because prior to about the 1950s, it was for teenagers, it was for low class people, it was for African Americans, as we had stigmatized it. A good middle class white person did not work in a service industry. They could own a service business, but they couldn't work in it.
But this also boils down to the modern day stigma against the middle class,
Mhm.
whether you're upper or middle class, lower middle class. That's where most of the transactions happen. Me and Jesse have had these conversations about how we'll fix the economy one day. But I mean, it boils down to the fact that you can go with the whole education thing, which is 100% true, but it boils down to the fact that people in today's age have lost some level of decency. Like I've I've had like I've had people when I tell them that I work at a pawn shop, they're like, really? And granted, there are some clientele that are less than what I would call classy. Most everyone I've worked with is great. I like my customers, all except for a handful.
That's generally how it is if
Yeah.
you work in the service industry.
But there's
You
a
don't want me to talk
negative
about-
kind of a negative stigma around the idea that you're having to do this job to make extra money. I mean, I know of people that work like 2 or 3 jobs just so they could afford rent and stuff. And that's seen as bad, like somehow it's your fault that life's thrown you a hardball. Now, I'm definitely not a proponent for anyone that's just going to sit on their ass and get handouts. I think if you can work, you should.
What it boils down to, what we can do about it is, again, education needs to catch up with the industries of the United States. We see in a lot of other countries where their education actually puts an emphasis on service industry, trade schools, service schools, and as well as universities. Not everybody goes to a university. Take Germany, for example. They encourage people to go, as many people to go to university as to go to trade school or to a school where they learn how to work in the service. And it's seen as equally acceptable. People who work in the service industry are equally respected as people who work in trades or in
They understand
capitals.
the fact that you need every person on a level
playing field.
of like, well, not even that, because life's not, the world is unfair. There's never going to be 100% equal playing field. But what I was trying to get at is you need everyone that makes up the puzzle piece or the jigsaw puzzle that is society. You need the lower class citizen just as much as you need the guy up top.
Oh yeah.
It is a like kind of jointed membrane, so to say.
Yep. And we can fix all that through fixing our education system. You look at other countries where their education system is caught up. The people who have the highest rated education systems in the world are people who have year-round schools. Their schools have high funding from the government. They have a high level of attendance. They have higher reading and math scores. They have higher scores in the liberal arts because these things translate well into people. And we don't have that in America. Our school system was designed to be beneficial towards farmers. Our education system was designed to be beneficial towards businesses. And so we don't create an atmosphere conducive to making a decent person, a person who is very strong and can set up their own capital, set up their own industry. You look at Japan, they take the first 3 years of education and basically just teach you how to be a decent human being.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very strong emphasis put on manners. And that's understandable as they come from a very small country. It's about the size of California with about as much living space as, say, like Rhode Island.
That's what I love about Japan is they're a very traditionalist country, but they're not afraid of change.
And we here in America, we tend to get caught up in the way we've always done things. If we want to catch up with the rest of the world, we need 3 things. We need a year-round education for primary all the way through what we consider high school. The entirety of pre-K through 12 needs to be year-round. We need a greater emphasis put on liberal arts and on educating people to be livable in society. That's the liberal arts like band, chorus, art, and we also need classes that like home ec. We need classes on balancing checkbooks, on paying taxes. We need classes that will teach you how to survive in the world.
I mean, I'm all for the proponent of advanced trigonometry, but and the average day in life, unless you can do contract or engineering, it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
It
And we need an
boils down-
emphasis put on trade schools. We need an emphasis put on respect of the service industry, and we need an emphasis put on.
Well, you can say respect in the service industry. You just need a entire course on respect.
Oh, yeah.
Respecting and you can bring that in. But ultimately,
And another thing you have to do is we all have to agree that paying people in the service industry a livable wage is what we're going to do. Because if that's going to be your job, and more and more it's becoming apparent that most people are going to be employed in the service industry, you
well,
need
here's
to
the
be
thing.
able to live.
I understand the argument against raising the minimum wage in the service industry, but I also understand the argument for it. I'm not taking a side on this in any way with this next statement. Basically, it was started out as a beginning thing, like around the 60s to the 80s. It was basically revolutionized as the first step. That's kind of like, the idea of you got to put in the work, you'll get the payout later in life. And somewhere down the line, a stigma arose that, you're working these, like you work as a mechanic, any like what would be considered a blue collar job, you're less of a person.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. But there's a lot that you need to do to fix society. One, through education. Two, through trade skills. We need to get past this stigma that the trade college is wrong.
Oh yeah,
Because
definitely.
guess what? You keep pushing everyone to be an engineer, you're gonna flood that archetype, and then you're not gonna have anyone lower than. This kind of boils down to the whole evergreen college situation. For those of you that aren't aware, there was a whole kind of controversy over this play turned basically social thing. At another podcast, I can go on about this. Basically, it's all about, I can't think of the name of the play, but basically the play was The Day of Absence. That's what it was called. In this play, all of the black people in the society disappear. And the whole point of the play is to show that every member of society fits a piece, and you need all the pieces to 100% function. And it was meant to kind of open up the eyes. It was during like the whole time of segregation, just to show that everyone should have an equal playing field. I am 100%. Actually, no, I am more than 100% on board for that. I believe that in business and in life, my personal viewpoint is I'm going to treat you, whether you're black, white, yellow, red, purple, green, whatever color your skin is. Doesn't matter to me.
Whatever Tim Kelly is.
Tim Kelly's something different. But I don't see, I have no respect of person, and I'm gonna treat you with the utmost respect and kindness as I can until you give me a reason not to. And with this, I've always seen that I'm not going to involve people in this project based on their skin color. I'm gonna do it on a skill level, and that was one of the arguments with the Evergreen College. And the reason being is just because it's common sense. You need to bring the best people in that you can. Now, am I going to discriminate against you because you're a certain race? And then no, because I care about everyone equally. I'm what I call an equal opportunist. And my usual joke is that I hate everyone equally. But honestly, I like everyone equally. And unless you give me a reason not to like you, if you do something to screw me over, then I'll cut all ties with you. And if you're putting forth good work, then I'm all about it. Like Tim's got a great work ethic. Tim has always been, at least what I've seen, he will grind something out until he figures it out. Case in point, we ran into like with one of our designs that we're working on, we ran into a rig problem. Basically, we needed some type of wiring to help move this particular thing. And Tim researched the crap out of it, I think. And we figured out what we needed. And now what we got to do is just get together, design, and build. Which basically what it boils down to is you have to innately do something that's difficult. Teaching people a work ethic. Teaching people the understanding that in life you're never going to 100% get an even playing field. But look at the 1%. Some of them do come from like the whole joke, daddy's money. But there are a lot that pulled themselves up from their bootstraps. There's a British airline guy, I can't think of the blonde dude, I can't think of his name. But he dropped out of high school, didn't have an education, just knew that, he had this understanding of a design that he wanted to do. And I think he's the guy that did British Airways. Can't think of the guy's name. Heck, look at Ben Carson. Ben Carson came from whether you like him politically or not, he came from a sketchy part of the world. Dug himself out, put himself through school to better himself. Those are the people, whether I agree with them politically or not, I still pay attention to. Because there's this innate understanding that they are going to better themselves irregardless. They're going to, basically it boils down to you shape your society. Don't let your society shape you. If we continue the way that we are, people are just going to fall into these archetypes. Nothing's going to change. There'll just be more yelling, no debate, open conversation. I'll be honest with you, me and Jesse differ so much politically.
This is true.
I am a hard right libertarian. Jesse's a very, very progressive liberal. He even told me the first time we started talking about politics, there's not a political movement left enough for him. And I was like, Jesus. But I've always had this idea. And at some aspect it can't be taught. It's just innately there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna treat you with respect as long as you treat me with respect.
And that's the idea that you have to have in order to have an open dialogue. And that's what we're here to do. We have hit the 1 hour and 7 minute mark, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Like I said before, if there's anything you guys want to talk about, you guys want to hear us talk about, leave a comment or go onto our Facebook page and
Messages.
give us a message. Let us know that you're listening.
Yeah.
Are we
We
done?
care about your opinion deeply. And
I was reading about cupfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's fun. On that note, have a great day, everybody. And enjoy life.